The Romans called the plains south of the Alps, what is now northern Italy, Gallia Cisalpina, meaning Gaul on this side of the Alps. Conversely, Gallia Transalpina meant Gaul beyond the Alps, referring to modern-day France. In late October of 218 BCE, Hannibal finally succeeded in crossing the Alps. Exhausted from the grueling journey, his troops rested while he sought alliances with the tribes of the Po River Valley, the region known as Gallia Cisalpina. These tribes deeply resented Rome for having seized their lands to build colonies, and they warmly welcomed Hannibal. About 10,000 Gallic warriors joined his ranks, helping to make up for the heavy losses his army had suffered during the Alpine crossing.
Rome maintained alliances and intelligence networks among the Cisalpine Gauls. Through these channels, the Romans learned that Hannibal was allying with local tribes and fighting hostile ones. In response, the consul Publius Cornelius Scipio marched with 2 legions to the Roman colony of Piacenza. Meanwhile, the Roman Senate ordered the other consul, Sempronius Longus, who was stationed in Sicily with 2 more legions, to march north and join Scipio. While waiting for Sempronius, Scipio set out with a cavalry detachment to locate Hannibal. Around mid-November, the 2 sides met near the Ticino River. This encounter marked Rome's first confirmation that Hannibal had indeed entered Italy.
Scipio had no intention of starting a major battle. He sought only to reconnoiter the enemy's strength and position. Although it was unusual to fight in winter, Hannibal's unexpected arrival left little choice. At the same time, Hannibal too was leading a cavalry detachment to scout the terrain and observe the enemy's movements. During this process, the cavalry forces of both sides encountered each other near the river Ticino. Thus began the first battle of the Second Punic War, the Battle of the Ticinus. Ticinus was the historical name of the Ticino River.
From afar, clouds of dust revealed each army's position as they closed in. The Roman cavalry numbered about 3,000 to 4,000, while Hannibal's was around 6,000, including the famed Numidian horsemen, the best of their time. At first, both sides fought evenly, but the Numidians on Carthage's flanks soon proved superior. The Gallic cavalry, Rome's allies, clashed with them but quickly broke. The Numidians then struck the Roman main line. Though the infantry held firm at first, they began to waver, and in the end, even Consul Cornelius was badly wounded.
It was common practice at the time for young men from high-ranking noble families to gain military experience as officer cadets before officially entering public service. Publius Cornelius Scipio, the approximately 17-year-old son of Consul Cornelius, also served as a cavalry cadet. Father and son shared the same name, which was not unusual in Rome. According to a well-known story, the young Scipio bravely saved his wounded father in battle. However, since this story originated from the Scipio family itself, some believe it was actually a slave who rescued the consul. Thus, the tale of the son saving his father may well be a fabrication. In any case, about 16 years after this event, the son Scipio would go on to defeat Hannibal.
Wounded and weary, Cornelius returned to Piacenza, where he realized that Hannibal's cavalry was far superior to that of the Roman army. He judged the recently constructed fortress at Piacenza to be still incomplete and therefore unsafe. Instead, he built a new fort about 20 kilometers away, on the broad and elevated terrain near the river Trebia. The uneven landscape there made it difficult for Hannibal to effectively deploy his cavalry. Cornelius planned to spend the winter at this position, regrouping the Roman forces and joining with Sempronius.
Meanwhile, Hannibal, ever the master of intelligence, learned through captured prisoners that a Roman supply depot was nearby. He raided the site and seized the provisions, securing food for his troops and freeing himself from dependence on local foraging. This success helped him win over more Gallic allies, though some tribes still remained cautious. To fully impress them, Hannibal needed not just a skirmish, but a clear, decisive victory.
At last, Sempronius arrived with his army at the position where Cornelius had established his camp. While Cornelius intended to spend the winter there, reorganizing his troops, the plebeian consul Sempronius had no such intention. In ancient Rome, consuls were often obsessed with achieving personal military glory during their short terms in office. With his tenure nearing its end, Sempronius was determined to defeat Hannibal at all costs. Cornelius, however, aware of Hannibal's strength, preferred to wage a war of attrition. Thus, the two consuls struggled to coordinate their strategies effectively. The Roman consuls alternated command on a daily basis, but since Cornelius was still wounded, Sempronius effectively held control over the army. Perceiving this, Hannibal began actively provoking the Roman forces.
We must press the advance.
Although separated by the river Trebia, Hannibal set up camp very close to the Roman forces. Even after securing sufficient supplies, he frequently sent out small detachments to raid the surrounding area. Provoked by these incursions, the Roman soldiers grew increasingly angry and demanded to fight. As a result, Cornelius's authority gradually weakened, while Sempronius's influence grew stronger. Around late December of 218 BCE, after completing his reconnaissance of the terrain, Hannibal ordered his brother Mago to conceal 1,000 infantrymen and 1,000 cavalrymen in the brushwood on the western bank of the Trebia. Determined to begin the battle, Hannibal had all his troops eat a full meal early in the morning and rub oil on their bodies to keep warm.
On an unusually cold and overcast morning, before dawn had even broken, the Roman soldiers were startled awake by the sound of commotion outside their camp. The Carthaginian cavalry had launched a surprise attack.
Men of Rome!
Sempronius immediately ordered his troops to march out, and the soldiers hurried into battle without having time for breakfast. At that moment, the Romans saw the Carthaginian cavalry appearing to retreat under pressure from their own horsemen. In reality, it was part of Hannibal's deliberate feigned retreat tactic. Believing this to be their chance to avenge their earlier defeat at the Battle of the Ticinus, the Roman soldiers, without waiting for orders from their commanders, raised their battle cries and charged forward. Led by their cavalry, the Roman army pursued the seemingly retreating Carthaginians and crossed the river in hot pursuit.
The Roman soldiers who had crossed the river were soaked to the bone and had empty stomachs, while Hannibal's troops had eaten well and rubbed oil on their bodies to ward off the cold.
Legions!
Sempronius hastily ordered his men to form battle lines. The Roman army numbered about 40,000 in total, but fewer than 4,000 of them were cavalry. Hannibal's forces, including his Gallic allies, numbered around 36,000. Although the overall numbers were roughly equal, Hannibal's cavalry reinforced by the Gauls amounted to nearly 10,000. The disparity in cavalry strength was overwhelming.
Despite being soaked and hungry, the heavily armed Roman infantry displayed remarkable fighting spirit, even as sleep began to fall. In the infantry engagement, the Romans initially gained the upper hand. However, in the cavalry battle, the advantage clearly belonged to Carthage. After fierce fighting, the Carthaginian cavalry succeeded in routing the Roman horsemen and then began to strike the Roman infantry from the rear. Soon after, Mago's 2,000 men, who had been lying in ambush, joined the attack, and the tide of battle turned sharply against Rome. The Roman infantry no longer fought to win by breaking through the enemy center, they now fought to escape. Only about 10,000 soldiers managed to break through the encirclement and cross the river safely. Afterward, the surviving Roman forces regrouped at their original base near the river Trebia in Piacenza.
After combining the remaining forces with those who escaped, the Roman army numbered about 15,000 men. The exact number of casualties is unknown, but modern scholars estimate between 5,000 and 7,000 were killed, with the rest taken prisoner. Consul Cornelius, still injured, did not personally take part in the battle. Although Sempronius was defeated, he displayed remarkable leadership by successfully leading 10,000 infantrymen through the enemy encirclement. Cornelius's son, Scipio, also fought as a cavalry officer and survived. By this point, the young Scipio had already received 2 hard lessons in tactics from Hannibal. The Carthaginian losses are estimated at around 1,000 to 2,000 men. In the Battle of the Trebia, Hannibal achieved victory through his skillful use of cavalry and ambush tactics. Although Rome was defeated, it was not a decisive or crippling loss. That's all for today. We'll continue the story in the next episode. Thank you for watching.